What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm Daniel Oyefusi. That is David Neal.
David Neal.
Thanks so much for tuning in. A quick reminder, make sure to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page. Like, share, comment, drop some questions, drop some comments, all that good stuff. Woo! That was a game on Sunday. We were treated to a game on Sunday. 21-point fourth quarter deficit. That's no problem for the Miami Dolphins. They won in thrilling fashion in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium, 42-38 over the Ravens. Tua Tagovailoa channeling his inner Dan Marino, career high 469 passing yards, 6 TDs, a game-winning touchdown pass with 14 seconds left. Man, he was doing it all. As the Dolphins make history. They tied the second largest comeback in franchise history. They were the first team in 12 years to come back and win a game after trailing by 21 points in the fourth quarter. The last 711 teams were unable to do that, but the Miami Dolphins did that, and they move on to 2-0 ahead of what I have to say is maybe the biggest game of the week in week 3, a home matchup against the Buffalo Bills. We're going to get into all facets, areas, parts of this week 2 win over the Ravens, and then preview this upcoming game against Buffalo. But David, we got to start with Tua. I mean, he had a performance for the ages. I think the stat was only 7 players before Sunday had like a stat line of like 450 and 6 touchdowns or something like that, and Tua became the 8th. He set just countless records. He tied Bob Greasy and Dan Marino for the most passing touchdowns in a game by a Dolphins quarterback. In the fourth quarter, man, he was a heater, 13-17, 199 yards, 4 touchdowns. And really what I think we can all agree was the biggest moment, the best moment, the shining moment of his young career just in his 3rd year. And man, everyone is on the Tua bandwagon this week, man. On Monday, everyone was singing his praises, deservedly so. They're talking about he's next up in terms of the AFC young quarterbacks. We got to start there.
Overreaction Monday, man. Tua did a very good job in the fourth quarter. He did a tremendous job. I mean, look, you rack up that many yards. I think he more than the touchdown, the 2 big touchdowns to Hill, which we can get into. I was wondering if the Ravens had Tua on their fantasy team. The Ravens DBs did. More so, I thought the game-winning touchdown to
Waddle
was that was a tremendous
put it
play
where only his guy could get it.
Right, you're keeping the play alive, keeping your eyes downfield. Same thing with the touchdown pass to Gesicki.
Ooh, that was his best pass of the game. I mean, literally, when you talk about putting it where only your guy could get it. Yeah.
Right, that was a tremendous pass and tremendous catch by Gesicki, and he had to follow it with one of the all-time worst touchdown celebrations I've ever seen. I mean, I am certainly no Michael Jackson on the dance floor.
They said he looked like he was skiing. He was trying to hit the gritty. They said he was skiing.
He looked like he had issues. I don't know what he was doing. But no, I thought that was a really great play. And then you saw, I thought Waddle, obviously, with his catch and runs and the deep ends that Tua was able to hit him on, showed, you kind of saw why, okay, this is why they took this guy, where they did last year. The touchdowns were the 2 big ones that tied the game were
Tyreek,
I don't know when the crack epidemic hit the Baltimore sideline again. They came a blitz off one side and left somebody on an island with Tyreek Hill on the other side. And the rookie safety's back there kind of going, do I go over here or do I give my guy help with Tyreek Hill? Son, that's not a question. That's, you suppose, I guess he knows the answer to that now. And then the second touchdown, the quarterback doesn't even he squares up. He doesn't even like start to run with Hill. He just passes him off like he thinks he's like in some type of Tampa 2 or something like that. And you saw after the play, the 3 Ravens defensive backs, are doing the 3 blind mice, look at each other. You're like going, yeah, I had you supposed to be over here. So all Tua had to do is really, that was pitch and catch. That was training camp. Those 2 passes.
But some of those tight window throws, like the one to Gesicki and there were some very, very impressive.
There were some really good throws, and again, they don't lose heart. The defense, obviously, defense gave up a lot of points. They gave up a lot of yards, but you hang in, you make the goal line stand. I disagreed with the Ravens going for it on the 3rd and short at the goal line. I'm of the philosophy, until they completely stop you from scoring, never let them think they can stop you from scoring. Take the field goal, take the 2-score lead. You want the touchdown, but just take your 2-score lead and go back to the sidelines and get more next time. But the Dolphins hung in there on that sequence, and they got a fumbled snap, and they got a break there, jumped on that, able to turn the game around at that point, the first of many momentum shifts. And the 4th down stop, again, I think they should punt it at that point. Time and distance are your friends, but they went for it, and it was a third. It wasn't that long, and the Dolphins defense,
they made a big
been getting run over all day, came up, made the stop, made a big stop, and that's what you need to make comebacks like this. Is that you don't have to do every single little thing right, but you need big plays at the right times. And that's what they got out of their defense. Now, I think whenever there's a comeback like that, there's usually, greatness, everything coming up, everybody most of the people on one side of the ball doing a whole lot of things well. A lot of people on the other side of the ball,
kind of messing up and giving you some breaks.
Yeah, right. And so, but that's what happens. That's what happens in sports. That's what happens every week. That's what happened in the NFL a lot this past week.
Yeah, a lot of comebacks. Yeah,
Jets and the Browns. The Browns forgot to cover somebody like downfield, and Joe Flacco reached back into 2012 and hit him for a touchdown. So no, it was a tremendous game by the Dolphins. Again, overreaction Monday. Slow it down. I think it was a great win. I don't think it says they're a great team. I think it says they are an explosive offense that like they want to be. Let's wait a few weeks before we say this is a consistently explosive offense and a consistently productive offense, because they've had 1 week where they did it just enough to win, and 1 week where they, went up and down the field even when they weren't scoring and put up a lot of points and basically outscored the opposition. So let's wait until we have a bit better sample size here before we start really looking at judgments. But they're 2-0, and I doubt
that's all that matters.
Right. They're 2-0, and I doubt many of us had them at 2-0 going into this game against Buffalo.
Well.
Oh, okay.
I did pick them to win. I did make a little alteration to my game by game predictions.
You did pick them to win.
So, but
neither one of us had that kind of game.
Exactly. I was gonna say, was I surprised by that? I think we were all shocked by that.
Yeah.
Now, when I entered the season, like talking about, I've been saying for months, like since they got Tyreek Hill and started to put these pieces of this offense together, I've been saying like, this is going to be a hard out every single week. Like they're not just going to get run over by teams. It looked like that in the first half and the first 3 quarters of this game. And really the first 3 quarters, we saw like what this team can look like if nothing is clicking. Like that was like an F performance. And then the 4th quarter was like their A performance where everything was going right. And that's when we saw like the real potential of this team in all phases of the game. In regards to Tua, like, again, like I've been saying, like, I think Tua is going to put up like big numbers this year. This big, like I think he's going to put up numbers this big. I'm not going to lie, I didn't foresee this. But when you put Tyreek Hill and Jayden Waddle together in this scheme, there's a lot of explosiveness, ready to be unleashed, and we saw that. Go ahead.
And Mostert also.
When they came out
in the second half, they ripped off 3 big runs.
Yeah,
And
they remained patient. They kept on doing what they do. They didn't
right.
overreact for real. Yeah.
And that's when you really, when that starts happening, that I'm sure made them feel like, hey, wait a minute, hold on here. We still got stuff going
they
on.
moved the ball the entire game. I mean,
Right.
truth be told, like if Tua doesn't throw 2 really bad first half interceptions, I mean, he probably puts 500 on them. Like, I mean, I'm being honest. Like they moved the ball well almost every single drive. It's just those 2 first half interceptions, and then the defense wasn't able to make the stops. Now, when we talk about, specifically for Tua, like I think this has the potential to be like a defining moment, can kind of be the springboard moment for him. Like I remember when I covered Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in 2019, when they unveiled this new offense, built around Lamar's skill set, and everyone in South Florida remembers when he threw, 5 touchdown passes, 59-10 in Miami, and he just went off. And it was almost like that type of performance where it's like, whoa, where did this come from? And then you're like, wait, this might be able to work. Now, again, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's the Dolphins, it's a fluke. And they had, at that time, and he had to follow it up with some like a couple more performances where people were like, oh, this is legit. This is going to work. And that's how I feel. Like I keep on saying it. I think this team is going to be a 10-win, 11-win team. They're going to be right in the thick of the playoff race. But it's like I'm not one of those guys like I'm trying to be a naysayer and be like, oh, show me again. But it's like I want to see it against the Bills. I want to see it against the best team. I want to see you able to like you can do this once and again. This was a special performance that you don't usually see, but I want to see the consistency. I mean, that's the one thing about Tua where I think everyone can admit we haven't seen the consistency. We've seen even last year when he came back from the broken ribs, he threw career high numbers against the Falcons, against the Jaguars, against different teams. But it's like, can you maintain that consistency? And again, he's leading the league in passing yards. He's tied for first in touchdowns. It's great, and that's great for him because he's been through a lot in his first two plus years in the NFL. But in terms of kind of like crowning him, I feel like anointing him after one game is almost just as bad as it's just as bad as trashing him after 1 or 2 bad games that he's had before. So I just want to see the consistency. But it was a great moment for him.
Like I said, it's a small sample size, and it is one tremendous great performance, and the list of quarterbacks who have done statistically what he's done,
I mean, it's small.
Is short, small. And there's a lot of names that are going to have gold jackets that they don't have, or they don't have them already. So I mean, that's impressive. Okay, but it's we're at a time where there are a lot of talented quarterbacks, and if you give these quarterbacks time, and you don't, and their receivers make plays, boy, you can get torched. You can get torched for a good 300, 400 yards. And, so like you said, let's see it. I want to see, it's simple. You see it week to week. No, you don't have to see 450 yards every week. No.
Nobody's expecting that from Tua every single week, but we just want to see the consistency.
Let's see over the course of several weeks. Let's see over the course of several weeks, 270, 300, 350, or let's see those performances let's see game-winning performances.
Yeah.
Week in, week out. And where he is the reason that
why they win.
Yeah. Or at least, and if they lose, he's not the reason they lose.
Exactly. I think that's one thing where like you look at the 14-8 record, or I guess it's 15-8 now, and people have said, well, how many of those wins were just kind of propped up by the defense and whatever? And it's like, well, this was a game where the defense gave up 38 points. He literally had to be absolutely perfect in the second half, and he was absolutely perfect in the second half.
Yeah.
So this is like the first time in a while where you can say everything wasn't perfect around Tua, but he rose and he dragged that team and he lifted that team to a win.
Right.
So it was a great moment for him. There's a lot of buzz in South Florida. There's a lot of buzz around this game. And I mean, people are talking about this team being a legit AFC contender. I mean, being one of the top teams in the AFC. I'm not ready to go there yet. Cause again, just like with Tua, I want to see the
certainly,
consistency from the team. I mean,
certainly.
we can look at the record and say it's 2-0, but I mean, all wins aren't created equal. I mean, I don't think that this was a performance that the defense is, clapping and really happy about. I mean, when you give up 38 points, I mean that's never good. And
Yeah.
follow up that performance with the matchup with the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, they're gonna have to be a lot better. I mean, those cover zero looks, those blitz looks that frustrated Lamar Jackson. I mean, he wasn't sacked. I mean, he was rarely touched, and he really was able to move the ball with ease. I think outside of the 79-yard run, the run game was fine, but in terms of the secondary and the pass rush, I mean, the pass rush has been kind of non-existent. Um, so I don't want to say concerns, but I have some questions about the defense. We saw them play really well in week one against an offense that's not really explosive, against an offense that's more explosive in week two, and really against an offense that we didn't expect to be able to test the Dolphins through the air. I mean, that's what we said last week. That's what the
Right.
narrative was, that, oh, well, week two, Ravens aren't going to really be throwing the ball around. I mean, they were able to move the ball through the air at ease.
And
Um,
more
so
consistently than they did on the ground, actually. I
exactly.
mean,
So
they
I do
had,
have some
obviously
concerns.
you had the big run with Lamar had some big runs, but as far as consistently moving the ball on the ground, possession to possession, they really didn't. And in fact, and which actually really hurt them in the fourth quarter because they weren't able to really close it
Milk that
down
game. Yep.
and say, okay, Brian, we're gonna put together some 5-6 minute drives, some time off the clock, kick a field goal at the end of it, make your comeback harder and more impossible. Um, no, they couldn't do that. And when they tried to, when they tried to do it, when they did run the ball in those situations, after Lamar's big run, they were short gains, 1, 2 short losses. They didn't get it done, and they did get it done generally through the air. But I mean, the run and shoot offense never could run out of game either. So, but no, yeah, interesting game, interesting win, fun win, great win, exciting win, and it really got people excited to the point where um, one of our coworkers is looking for Dolphins Bills tickets for her boyfriend for his birthday, and she was looking Sunday during the game, and she said they were one price at one moment, then suddenly that game,
Yeah,
every
they
the
switched
fourth
up real
quarter
quick.
happened, and suddenly she was priced out of the market.
Yeah, Hard Rock. I don't think it's going. There might not be an empty seat at Hard Rock on Sunday.
Oh,
So
I doubt. Yeah, I doubt this should be a rock. This game should be rocking, and that place should be rocking. And there's going to be a you know complement of Bills fans. There always are,
yeah,
and in South Florida, and you said but then you got to have the Dolphins fans going crazy. This is the chance for the Dolphins to say, hey, we are now the alpha dogs in the AFC East. Not you. Not you want to be, throwback Buffalo Bills. It's now it's the Dolphins time. And so yeah, this is very exciting for the fans. I think and it's going to be I think it's going to be tremendous energy in the place. Um, yeah, it's going to be fun, like the old, but back when both teams were really good and relevant.
yeah.
Long time ago, but but
Not most definitely.
it was fun back then too. Those games were fun, and so yeah, this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be cool.
Not most definitely. We're gonna take a short break, but when we do, when we come back, we're gonna talk about that matchup. Two and O teams, divisional matchup, statement game, statement game. Stay locked with us, and we're gonna talk about that more. What's going on, everybody? Still here on the Dolphins in Depth podcast with David Neal, talking all things Miami Dolphins. And David alluded to it on the other half of the podcast. The Buffalo Bills, 2-0, the Super Bowl favorites, are coming into Miami Gardens for an early season, do we say heavyweight battle bout? I don't know, but it's
Uh,
a it's a litmus test for the young Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. We all know the Buffalo Bills have dominated this matchup. I believe Josh Allen is 7-1 against the Dolphins. He has performed extremely well. But again, this is not well, this doesn't look like, the Dolphins of, the past couple of years. They are 2-0. They have an electric offense. They have a defense that looks really good. And again, I think this is a real opportunity. And Mike McDaniel alluded to that. It's an opportunity to see how you measure up with the best. I got to ask you, as our resident historian, is this the biggest game matchup in recent franchise history? I know in the past couple of years, the Dolphins have had some games where if they win it, they're in the playoffs, they reach a playoff berth. But in terms of the magnitude and the opportunity to really like change the perception of a team, of a player, of the franchise. I mean, can you
It's
recall such like a big matchup? And I know it's week 3, but can you
yeah,
recall a
it's
matchup?
the biggest early season matchup I think I can remember in a long time. Um, you know, 2000, 2009. I know they were division champs. They come in, they played uh where they played the Colts, I think the home opener, and that wasn't it. That was and also later they played the Jets like maybe game 6 or so. I think both those were on Monday Night Football. And there was kind of this feeling of, okay, we're really gonna see where this team is and how this team is and how good this team is. And because they were coming off a division championship season. Um uh you know, I don't know. I think it's the biggest early season thing for a while, because there haven't been many games where you felt like there were measuring stick games, but I say they turned into more yardstick games, like when your mama used to beat you behind with a yardstick, and that I think New England home opener back, right, I want to say 2011 or so, 2010. 2011, I think the one where Brady threw for like 500 and some yards.
Mm,
That was one of those seasons. Okay, the Dolphins. Okay, we're right there with them. Okay, let's see. Are we right there with them? No, you're not. No. So I think it might be the biggest one since that game, and biggest early season game since that game. So yeah, I mean, you look at how Buffalo's playing, and they're not just the Super Bowl favorites. They're playing like the Super Bowl favorites, and they're playing like the Super Bowl favorites who just won a Super Bowl.
yeah.
They're playing with that they're playing with the confidence and just smoothness of a defending Super Bowl champion that you usually see out of them. I mean, they on Monday night with the season opener against the Rams, they look like the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
The Rams look like the team.
I was just like, we got to play the Super Bowl champions. Let's see what we can do.
They look like the team trying to get the come up. And then last night, whoa,
That was a beatdown.
they hurt feelings. I mean, they stuffed Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry hasn't had a good first 2 games as it is, but they stuffed Derrick Henry. Tennessee doesn't have any receivers though, that scare you, and Dolphins have 2 at least. And so yeah, but they did what they needed to do against that kind of team. They stuffed Derrick Henry, they shut down the passing game, and they put up a whole lot of points. And it didn't look like didn't break a sweat doing it. And the starters were the starting quarterbacks on the bench in the 4th quarter.
Yeah. Now, as much. So when I wasn't able to watch that game, I was actually flying back from Baltimore. I had a late flight coming back from home, so I wasn't able to watch that game. But I will say that if you're a Dolphins fan, I think the one thing about that game that makes you feel really good, as crazy as that week 2 game in Baltimore was, I think the one thing about the game that makes you feel more confident about this matchup is that in the first 2 weeks of the season, we saw the Dolphins win in 2 different ways. We saw week 1 where they really relied heavily on the defense. Then we saw week 2 where the offense has to put up a lot of points and a lot of points quickly, and they had no problem doing it. In the NFL, you have to win more often in week 2. You have to win more often in the week 2 fashion than in the week 1 fashion. So the fact that they were able to put up points, and not even like the way it's the way they put up points. It's like, I mean, some of those drives were like 2-3 minutes, 84 seconds. 87 seconds. I mean, the fact that they were able to score in bunches, I think, was a very, very good sign. And, you know, throw out some of the blown coverages, the busted assignments. They were able to take advantage of that and score. And you saw that explosiveness. If I'm the Dolphins, funny enough, after 2 games, the thing I'm most worried about is the defense. Because, like I said before, in the first real test against an explosive offense, an explosive player, they seem like they were not ready to play. I mean, we talked all week long last week about, are they going to blitz him? Are they going to do the cover zero? They did that, and again, they did not touch Lamar Jackson. I mean, there were some stats that says he threw all 3 of his touchdown passes against the blitz. There's some stats that say he threw 2 of them. Either way, he was very, very successful against the blitz. And with Byron Jones not being available for this game, I'm not sure if they have the horses in the back end of the secondary to constantly hold up. And we saw the Ravens exploit some matchups with the safeties and the tight ends. We all know what Stephon Diggs can do. He's had success against X in that matchup. But conversely, I think that, you know, it's a short week for the Bills. They have some injuries. They had a scary injury with one of their cornerbacks. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play. One of their safeties left with the neck injury. There are some injuries in the secondary too. So, I mean, I think last week I was like, oh, this is going to be a low scoring game. I mean, this week I think it could be a high scoring game. We could see some of the fireworks that we saw last week. You know, when you're looking at this game, the Dolphins win if what happens?
I think if they get, I want to say to get 2 turnovers.
Oh, that's tough. I haven't been able to do that a lot against Josh Allen. He's put up some crazy numbers against them.
They get 2 turnovers, and I was going to also say in that Josh Allen's rushing total is, you know, it's more like 3 yards. It's like 3 or 4 yards a carry, not like, you know, 10. I think they can move the ball on Buffalo. Tennessee last night just looked like a bad matchup. They didn't look like they have any confidence in themselves. They're a team that works off, okay, Derrick Henry's going to run the ball, and then we're going to work off that. Well, Derrick Henry couldn't run the ball, so
yeah,
you know they had nothing to work off of. Ryan Tannehill, you know, Tannehill's in season 11 now. He's getting a little older. People forget he used to be a pretty good athlete, and it's just last night it just looked like he's now just a kind of a big big quarterback with not that big an arm. It just they just look like a bad matchup. I think that the Dolphins offensively match up well with the Bills defense. They can match up well.
I think they can match up because of the injuries in the secondary.
Right.
But I think that this is the best pass rush that the Dolphins are going to face. I mean, the Bills do not blitz, but they're very successful getting to the quarterback without blitzing. So they can put 7 guys in coverage and get good coverage on the back end and get great pressure up front, which, I mean, late in that game, it was pitch and catch with Tua, and his receivers. I mean, the Ravens weren't able to pressure him at all. So I think that the offensive line has been kind of one of the biggest surprises of the first 2 weeks. Again, as part of the overall litmus test, we're going to see, all right, was this offensive line, has it really improved, or is it kind of maybe just taking advantage of some matchups that were a little more favorable to them?
And things that can slow a great pass rush down. Obviously, screens, traps, draws, misdirection. I want to see if Mike McDaniel comes out and throws some of that early on at the Bills, just to get him thinking just a tad, just to slow him down just a tad. And, you know, why not? Because Von Miller, you know, Jordan Phillips has turned into a player, and I'm sure the Dolphins fans are just like, oh, of course. But yeah, you're right. That's a tremendous pass rush, and which is one of the keys to winning in the NFL is if you can get pressure with your front 4, and obviously they can. But I think the Dolphins have the ability to, with those kind of plays, not just slow the pass rush, but get big plays.
Yeah, get the yak. Yeah, get the yak.
And screen and Mostert, Edmonds on a misdirection, just get the do things that can anything that can slow that pass rush down just a little bit early, just to get them thinking a little bit early, and then give you a little bit of time for things to work downfield, and which no, it doesn't even do that far downfield. Yeah. But I really do think you on the other side of the ball, they have to. I think they have to get some short. I want to see them get some quick, turnovers. Just make it a little easier on the offense. Get those are such valuable plays. I mean, you it's not often you lose a game if you get a pick six, fumble return for a touchdown, a couple of short field touchdowns. You don't often lose those games
unless you're the Ravens.
right. But yeah, I think also Josh Allen still, boy,
he's looking good.
I want to see him again. I want to like he's gotten so much better than he originally was. But I do want to see him again in a tight late game situation.
I mean, we saw him last year against the divisional round game.
The divisional round Kansas City.
I mean, we saw him do that.
Yeah,
he did not flinch in that moment.
Right. But I think the Dolphins defense is better than KC's.
That is true, but it's matchup oriented. And again, I mean, they blitzed Josh Allen. I think that they're a little more successful when they blitz him as opposed to not blitzing him. My thing is, like, if you blitz at the wrong time, you get burnt, and that's my word. I mean, I remember the week 8 game or so where they lost. They kind of bookend the losses. They had the week 2 loss against the Bills at home, and then they had the week 8 loss before the trade deadline. And it's like they flipped something with the defense. And they were blitzing more, and they had a little bit more success. But after a while, they were able to counteract those blitzes. And again, in the secondary, I just wonder, like, are they able to hold up? If the front four, if Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Melvin Ingram, if those guys can't get to Josh Allen without blitzing, without the exotic looks, I worry that he's just going to sit back there. He'll take the hits. I mean, he'll take those hits. He'll struggle out some guys like Ben Roethlisberger, and he'll throw or he'll make the pass. If they can't get to him and get to him quickly, I don't know if the Dolphins have the secondary right now to hold up. They were able to kind of get away with it in week 2, not really, because they did give up some big plays. X gave up some plays. Some of the safeties gave up some plays. I don't know if this offense, I mean, I'll put it this way. You're not going to win this game if you give up 38 points again. I mean, it's not happening again. The Bills defense is too good in that type of situation.
But the other thing is the Dolphins also, kind of obviously the special teams against Baltimore, they kind of lost that battle.
You gotta win the little battles in these types of games.
Right. And that's something you want to see them do. I don't know if that I kind of like the look of Buffalo special teams last night. But so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It is a measuring stick game. They lose it, and if they get drilled, okay, well, it's still only one loss, and Buffalo's playing really well. They're 3-0, but it's a long season.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of teams that looked really good in September, and
look as good,
we're not around. We're not around to play in January.
Yeah.
I've seen in these Dolphins Bills games specifically, but the one I'm thinking about, 1990, the Bills came in here. You could tell they were a team on the rise, and the Dolphins just hammered them, just 30-7.
Mm-hmm.
And if you looked at those two teams, you thought, okay, boy, the Dolphins are really on the come. Well, by the end of the season, the Dolphins were a playoff team and the Bills were a Super Bowl team. And they, beat the Dolphins at the end of the season for the regular season title, then beat them again in the playoffs. So yeah, this is a big game, but kind of, let's realize it for what it is. It's just a statement on where these teams are right now.
Yeah.
And you know, where they are right now, you know, may definitely not be where they are by Christmas or by New Year's.
Yeah, I mean, even last week I was saying that I was like, I think that those are the Ravens and the Dolphins are two teams who we could see the best version of those two teams in a couple months.
Right.
And I still do believe that.
But one of the big things when we talked about this in our season I think the last podcast before the season preview, before the season started rather.
Mhm.
When it comes down to tiebreakers now.
Yeah, you gotta win. Yeah, like they got a good start because they beat the Patriots, they beat the Ravens. This is another one of those games where it's like, this could help you down the line.
This is your division record. This is your conference record.
Yeah.
The Dolphins won that 2008 division title on the fifth tiebreaker. The fifth tiebreaker. And like the pivotal games were the Patriots, like maybe the third or fourth game after they lost Brady, got hammered by the Chargers on a Sunday night football game. And like 2 weeks earlier, the Dolphins had beaten the Chargers.
Yeah.
And that those two games wound up being the difference between the two. Dolphins win the division, go to the playoffs. Patriots, 11-5, but they were home. And so that game last week, very, exciting as well, great comeback. And it might wind up being the game that puts the Dolphins in the playoffs. And this game, also could be one of the game that you down the road, you win it. Okay, maybe by the end of the season, Buffalo's looking even better, and maybe but still, it could be the game that gives the Dolphins a division, or puts them in the playoffs by conference record, or one of those convoluted tiebreakers the NFL comes up with or has, but so yeah, this is a very interesting game. It's a big game, very excited. As soon as I finish work, grab some couch and check it out. And yeah.
With all that being said, we gotta get a score prediction. I'll start first.
Okay.
I've wrestled back and forth. I made a last minute adjustment to my week 2 pick. I had the Ravens at first, then I went to the Dolphins. I'm doing that again. I'm flip-flopping again. I had the Dolphins in my preseason predictions, but I'm going Bills. I just think, again, when you look at the records, look at the stats, can't look at it on the surface. There's nuance. Not everything is created equal.
Right.
I see an offense that I think we saw their peak potential in the fourth quarter, but are we going to get that type of performance week in and week out? No. Do they need that week in, week out to win? I don't think so, but I think facing a Bills defense that's a lot better than the Ravens defense, albeit some injuries on Buffalo's side that we got to monitor this week, I think that they'll be able to kind of neutralize that offense to an extent. And on the flip side, it's almost like what I said with the Ravens offense. Like, I got to see you stop. I got to see you, beat the Dolphins cover 0 before I give you the credit. All right, Ravens did that. Conversely, I got to see the Dolphins defense rise up to the occasion and stop Josh Allen before I really believe it. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything in the first 2 weeks that leads me to believe that they're going to be able to stop them that much. But again, I mean, I think that even some of these recent matchups with the Bills have maybe the score hasn't been indicative of the actual game that it was. Like, I remember the week 8 game last year where the first half and really the first 3 quarters, they were able to really control and limit Josh Allen and that Bills offense. But, you got a couple bad breaks your way. The Bills make some plays and the game kind of gets broken open. Again, I think that it's a game where if they keep it within like 24-27, the Dolphins offense could be good enough. If they're performing at their best, they could be good enough, to score a little bit more and eke out a win. But I just think maybe there's not a little ready yet. Again, I think that there's a lot of week-to-week overreaction. We talk about overreaction Monday. Everyone's saying, Tua's an MVP candidate. The Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders. It's a great game, great fourth quarter, but you gotta maintain that consistency. And but yeah, I think there's maybe a little bit of overreaction to that brilliant fourth quarter. The Bills are just operating at a completely different level on all phases of the ball. And I think, it's kind of levels to it. Maybe the Dolphins aren't ready yet. I think the Bills come away with the win.
I'll take the Bills like 34-24, something like that. They've looking at their first two games, they looked better than I thought they would. I don't think the competition was necessarily the best. The Rams didn't look that great in week 2 either. And like I said, the Titans don't, so
They don't move me. Yeah.
they're definitely not looking Titanic unless you're talking about the ship. So, but I think they're playing very well until you see something different. They're clearly looking like the best team in the league right now, and they're clearly playing with just a lot of confidence and a lot of they've got it going. I think and I think they will be able to come up with a pass rush in the fourth quarter. Always a key, and so that's why I say 34-24. I don't think the Dolphins will get rolled the way the Rams and the Titans did. But I see the Dolphins moving the ball, playing, offensively, having a day somewhere between week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
And, it could come down to it's, boring coach speak. It could come down to who gets the 2 turnovers or who gets the 2 or 3 turnovers. Now, did it get, who knows? The Dolphins won the turnover battle last week and, or the Ravens won the turnover battle last week. And, what did that matter at the end? So yeah, I'll go with Buffalo 34-24.
Gotcha. So we're both rolling with the Bills, not siding with the home team, but again, I think that again, this team is going to be a hard out week in and week out.
Yeah.
And I think that regardless of the outcome, we'll see that in week 3. That brings us to the end of another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Reminder, subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. It is going to be a fun one on Sunday. I will be in attendance. I'll be covering that. Make sure to stay locked on MiamiHerald.com, Miami Herald, for all your up-to-date Dolphins news. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday, to recap another weekend of Dolphins football. But until then, you guys take care. See ya.
Bye, y'all.